Hello everybody and welcome back. This week we plan to have a bit more news as we get continuously closer to the PTQ season, as well as a couple more test games in both my archetype and another. We've also got results from Grand Prix Seattle, so we'll detail those and their contrast to Barcelona as well. So let's draw. As I had predicted, Swans was still a pretty big deal at Seattle, many copies still reaching day 2, and, as I said before, people would find it necessary to board against it, as we saw 6 copies of Pithing Needle in the top 8 and another 4 dozen making day 2. However, as I said before, as a result of this, Swans is going to win less. Fact is, Fairies is the trump to Swans, as all they have to do is hold their cards on 4th turn, if their opponent plays something, counter it, and if they don't, flash in a Fae at end of turn. The deck trumps Swans over and over and over. Then again, many people I talk to still comment on how, because they played a metagame deck, they have a good chance of winning. I argue that this is not true. At regionals, I was surprised to see anyone playing tokens, because fact is pretty much everybody was playing Fog. Why? Well, first, Fog is cheap, which makes everybody want to play the deck, but second, it won a Japanese Open. I mean, if you don't have 4 last pick Angel songs just from your drafts by now, it's fair to say you haven't been playing enough Magic, and I mean, look at how many times Jace was reprinted. And sure, cryptics are expensive, but if you only have to spend $80 for a playset of those and would otherwise have to spend $200 for the lands and Swans, why put in that much money for a deck that appears to be winning the same amount? But despite the fact nobody really thought about it, and all the token decks that faced Fog sat at a 0-1-2 bracket or a 0-3-0 bracket. However, for this metagame, it's a little more complicated. See, the way you figure out what somebody's going to play next time is basically what was being played the last big tournament. For example, starting back around Kyoto, everybody remembered 5-color control. They remembered Nassif's ultra lucky flip and the great and wacky cards that were wielded in the deck. Then, after Reborn, tokens became the madhouse simply because it did well enough against other decks and swept the 5-color games. Then, after a Japanese Open, everybody attempted to play Turbo Fog and other tokens decks that beat Black-White. Some came out winners, like green-white tokens, others came out losers, i.e. most of the Turbo Fog. This resulted in what I like to call a mishmash metagame. This is, basically, a metagame that's quote-unquote open, so you can play anything and have a decent chance, and yet there are still certain decks that come out in larger numbers than any other deck, and, as such, can be metagamed against. The Turbo Fog/Tokens metagame was then followed by Swans at Grand Prix Barcelona, which was then followed by Doran Rock at Seattle Tacoma. However, I don't believe this will be the deck people will remember from that tournament. Sure, it's the deck that won, but with 5 copies of Fairies making the top 8, of course, that isn't to say people won't play cheaper decks for the sake of affordability, i.e. you'll always have to be prepared for the red-black aggro deck and Turbo Fog decks, as well as the occasional variant of a deck that runs wackier yet sneakier cards, and of course it will depend on your metagame. As a result, I think you should expect at least 15%, if not more, of the metagame to be Fairies, and 15%, if not more, to be Swans. As for the deck I'm playing next weekend in the PTQ, well, I would have loved to play green-white tokens, as it's the better deck against Fairies and black-white tokens, but as Telolcats puts it, I has no monies, what is I going to do? So, I'm going to be playing black-white tokens. Of course, I've still got to find in a Johnny, another $20, but other than that, the deck is pretty prepared for Fae and Swans, both side and main. So, we'll end this week with the deck I'll be playing, a live match against John Manaramp. Andrew, the Jun player, is playing And I Keep. A hand of 2 lands, no black sources, but it seemed worth it in this case, 2 Path to Exiles, 1 Cloudgoat Ranger, A Glorious Anthem, and a tidehollow Sculler. Andrew plays a Savage Land, I put a Windbrisk into play tapped. Andrew then plays a Twilight Mire, and a Rampant Growth, getting a Mountain to speed things up. I then play Reflecting Pools with visibly no black sources, and pass. He plays a Savage Land, and I play Plains and tap out for a Kitchen Finks going to 22. He plays a land and passes, while I tap out for a Glorious Anthem, taking him to 16. He then pulses the Anthem when I play a Sculler next turn, hiding a Dragon Broodmother, and follow that up with a Bitterblossom and an attack for 3 when he plays Dragon Broodmother, which gets Path to Exiled on my untap step, and another next turn, which runs into a second Path to Exile Exile, and brings us on to Game 2. I switch out 3 Celestial Purges for 3 Knight of the White Orchids for Game 2. On the draw, I keep a hand of 5 lands, a tidehollow Sculler, and a Spectral Procession. He starts out with a Crag and a Savage Lands. He then Rampant Growth for a Forest, after which I play a Swamp, which is supposed to be a Fetid Heath here, and Sculler, taking his Terminate. He then begins the climb, playing a Fertile Ground and passing, while I play Spectral Procession and hit him for 2. He plays a Garruk, bringing him to 4, and naturalizes the Sculler. But it's fine, I just play a Sculler taking his Cloud Thresher, which pretty much just because it draws the Terminate away from what I had planned for the next few turns, which you'll see play out in a sec. I then swing a Garruk for 3, and it's his move. At the end of my turn, he terminates as expected, then draws, plays a land, gets rid of Garruk for a beast, and threshes on my declare attack step. I begin my setup for the following turns by playing a red cap, dealing 2 to him, and playing a Mutable. He goes and swings for 7, which I take. I play another red cap, and he goes, attacking, at which point I play a Zealous Persecution, bringing his creatures down and mine up, at which point I double block the Thresher for a total of 6 damage, and persisting, kill the beast. I then swing with a Mutable and the red caps, picking up a cloudgoat on the way, and with only a single Maelstrom Pulse left, and I, a Kitchen Finks, a concession. So until next time, this is Anthony Palmario, tapped out for now, but we'll untap soon.
Explain the ultimate pack, the ultimate future sight pack.
Cracked a Goif, brother.
But what else was in the pack?
A foil cloud key.
A foil cloud key.
Everyone's dream.
God.
Wait,
what?
the best pack I've ever opened out of Future Sight is Tarmogoyf
Tarmogoyf?
and foil Tarmogoyf.